Hello my friends and welcome to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Thank you for joining me for review number 180, part 10 of this series of a baker's dozen, looking at 13 12-year-old Scottish single malts, and we're off to Speyside with Benriach. Benriach, they're owned by the Benriach Distillery Company, sort of under the umbrella of Brown-Forman. This one, the Smoky 12, I could have went for the other 12, but I decided that I hadn't really hit on a lot of peated whiskies in this series. And it's not very often. There's a few examples of it, but there's not that many peated smoky Speysiders. So that was one of the reasons why I thought I would go for this one. I know they're out there. I know there are a few, but not that many. So the Benriach Smoky 12, bottled at, he looks again for memory, 46%. It is natural colour, but as far as I can tell, it is also chill filtered. If you're gonna, I'm just putting it out there, it's just my opinion. If you're gonna bottle it at 46%, if you're gonna bottle it natural colour, then don't chill filter it. Now, I'm saying that I haven't been able to find anywhere. Somebody may pop up and say this is non-chill filtered, but I haven't been able to find any record of it. So if I've looked that hard to find out whether it's chill filtered or not, if it is non-chill filtered, then put it on the label. There, simple. It is very, very simple. Anyway, let's get into it, shall we? A slight bitter, sharp, burnt ends. And when I say burnt ends, I mean barbecued burnt ends hit it first. It's the slight bitterness of it. Meat gets burnt to that point where there's a slight bitterness of it. No bad thing, I like that. And it is good. And in this case, it's good. It's intriguing, is a way I would put it. There's a very slight farmyardy note of, I'm going to suggest, wet silage, something else, which, having grown up not in the country, but very close to the country, and now living in the country for quite a few years, I like the smell. I like those farmyardy smells. The smell of wet silage, something that I'm quite happy with. Loads of fresh citrus, orange and lime. And you soon forget, but it's very easy to forget that this is a peated malt. Aside from that slight note of burnt ends at the start, it all becomes about citrus for me and a nice round sweetness. Yet again, there could be a hint of peat blindness sometimes, but it's just this. Let's get into the palate and see what that brings, shall we? Yes, lovely, fresh, sweet, sour, bright. And now you're reminded that this is a peated malt, not heavily peated. And the reason you would know that it's not heavily peated is, even in that first washover, I find that a heavily peated whiskey will hang about on the back of my palate almost instantly. This is clean. Not only clean, but creamy. Coating. Oh, there's loads going on in this. Yeah. As much as you're instantly reminded on the palate that it is a peated malt, you almost instantly forget it again. Because when it makes that first pass, it doesn't hang about in the back of the palate. Then it's about what's going on in the rest of the palate for me. This is a lovely mouthfeel. I forgot to add, this is a maturation of 3 different casks. It's ex-bourbon, ex-sherry and ex-marsala cask. So there is quite a bit going on. Orange, once again, lime, I said it in the nose. There's a lovely hint of baked buttery pastry. Yeah. Raspberry jam. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. It is a good one. Finish. Not an awful lot of memory of that smokiness. There's no smokiness really. You get it initially on the nose and on the palate, but it washes away quite quickly. This wouldn't hold up to anything from Islay, any peated malt from Islay, in my opinion. That doesn't necessarily mean that this is a bad whiskey by any means. As a matter of fact, it's a very good whiskey in my opinion. But it's more about the sweet notes, the thick notes, the jammy notes, the creamy notes. I said about that sweet buttery pastry. Lovely. It's fantastic. Finish. Yeah. No. It's relatively short. Inoffensive, but nice. That'd be a very good way to describe this whiskey. Putting that was 2 drops of water in what's left in my glass. Because when I did my tasting notes, this didn't cope very well with water. It went thin, it just wishy-washy. So I'm not expecting it to do anything different here. A couple of drops of water aren't going to change an awful lot anyway. You really forget that this is a peated malt. Yeah, you really do. It's a lovely cream. Once again, the nose becomes creamy. Sweet pastry. I've said it before, it's like a pudding in a glass. Marsala, I've found in the past, marsala casks can bring that. This would be a fantastic introduction to somebody who doesn't like peated whiskey, peated malt, and is trying to get into peated malt. It's ever so slightly smoky. This is going a bit dry now, but don't get me wrong, it's not bad for it. It's a good one. It is a good one in my opinion. 35 to 45 pounds for a 46% 12-year-old. Non-shelf or non-colour, no colour added. I mean, just it's costing Benriach money to chill filter this. Don't do it. Just don't do it. There, it's simple. I'll just move on from that. Right, so a good introduction to a peated malt, or because I mean, let's face it, there's probably not an awful lot of peated malt in this. So it's something then that I thought, well, what else would I recommend as a good alternative for this? And a good recommendation for somebody trying to get into peated malt. If you can get your hands on it, it's not just as hard to get your hands on. I'm going to suggest Kilkerran 12-year-old. Not as hard to get your hands on. I've noticed recently that as much as we all love Springbank and Glengyle and those two distilleries, their offerings, there are ones that are starting to hang around and show up more, that people aren't just rushing out to buy. Kilkerran 12's one of them. Springbank 10-year-old is starting to hang around a little more, I've noticed as well. Obviously, it depends on where you're at in the world, obviously. But for me, these are starting to show up a bit more. So for me, a good alternative for not that much more expensive, a good alternative to the Benriach Smoky 12-year-old, the Kilkerran 12-year-old. Of the two of them, which would I prefer? Do you know, that's a good question. That is actually a good question, because we all rave about Kilkerran, most of us anyway. But the 12-year-old doesn't really do it for me. It never has. This is my second bottle of Kilkerran 12-year-old. And as you can see, I've worked my way through it. I hate it that much that I'm halfway through a bottle and a half of it. Sorry, I'm 3/4 of the way through a bottle and a half of it. And this, well presented, 46%, no colour added, non-chill filtered, etc. The Kilkerran 12-year-old. But you know, there's a bit of competition there. I think the Benriach 12-year-old, Smoky 12, okay, it's up to your palate. But do you know, it just depends on the mood you're in on the day. That's the easiest way to put that. Depends on the mood you're in the day. Because the Benriach Smoky 12 is readily available. It is £35 to £45. The Kilkerran 12-year-old, I suggested, as much as it's more available than it used to be, it's probably it's probably the £45 to £50 mark. And do you know, it's a good whiskey on a good day. The Benriach is a good whiskey on a good day. So there, it depends on the mood you're in. Go back to this now. First thing I catch, as soon as I knows it, is that we hint of smoke. It's just when you know what it's like when you're working on these things. And now I'm even getting a hint of menthol off it. When you're working on these things, you do tend, if there's not a big influence of smoke, even medicinal, you lose it very quickly, and you find whatever else is going on in the background. So yes, would I recommend it? Well, I would. Yeah, I would actually. For that price, if you can get one of these for even £40 a bottle, I would definitely recommend it. I would. Listen, thank you very much for joining me. Always a pleasure to have you. Thank you very, very much to my patrons. Should anybody wish to join that group, the details are in the video description below, as always. Well, I sang that. And I'll add a bit of a video up here. There's a link for a video up here, which will also explain more about my patronage. So thank you very, very much, my friends. Always a pleasure to have you. As I said, look after yourselves. Till the next time, wish you good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.